Welcome to the Google Cloud Security Showcase, a special web series where we'll focus on security use cases that customers can solve with G Suite. My name is Andrew, and I'm a product manager at Google Cloud. Today, we'll be walking through one of the top questions we get from customers. How do I control which third-party apps have access to my data? Now I'll show you how you can review the API Permissions tool to see which third-party web and other apps have access to the data in your G Suite account. And you can control which apps can access those data, either by trusting certain apps or by limiting access to G Suite services using our API Permissions feature. The way you get there is from the Google Admin or G Suite Admin page. The security menu on the left-hand side, you go to Security Settings. You can also click on the security icon, which will take you to Security Settings. In the Security Settings, you go all the way to the bottom, and you'll see API Permissions. This allows you to control who has access to G Suite APIs or OAuth 2 scopes, where apps can access data such as your Gmail, Drive, Calendar, and other G Suite app data. As you can see here in this account, access to these OAuth 2 scopes is enabled for all services today. Let's say that you wanted to tighten security in your account and not allow access except for specific authorized apps to your Gmail and Drive data. Here you can click to disable access to those services. Perhaps you might also disable access to Google Admin. In the case of Gmail and Drive, you can disable all access, or you can disable access only to what we call our high-risk scopes, for example, sending or deleting Gmail or deleting Drive content. But we're going to limit access to all access because we want to have the strictest policy around Gmail and Drive. Once you save these settings, yes, you will block user access to all OAuth apps using this capability. Now, once you've done this, users who are attempting to activate those services will find themselves blocked. And in fact, you can provide this custom information, this custom notice at the bottom of the window so that you can, for example, provide your own contact details as an administrator. From this page, you can also decide if you want to trust domain-owned apps. For example, if you have AppScript or other apps that you've built in your GCP console and you want to trust them all, you can check that box. Now, if you want to review the apps that you have in your environment and decide which ones you actually want to trust, you click here on Installed Apps, or you can click on the number of apps that are accessing the different services here. When I click on Installed Apps, you can see here you've got approximately 10 apps that have access to, or have had up to now, access to your Google services. In this case, my Google Drive Chrome extension, which is a web application, I want to make sure that that will continue to have access even though I've tightened access to Drive. And so when I click here on the right-hand side, I can trust this app. So by doing so, you can add this to our trusted list. And if you click here on the trusted list now, you can see which apps are in fact trusted so that you can make sure that those are supported. Additionally, if you want, you can use this add button to add an app to the trusted list. Now, the way that you would do that, you actually need the OAuth 2 client ID in order to add an app to the list. So what we'll do here is copy the OAuth client ID for another service called Google Gather. I'm going to the trusted list here. Generally, you would do this with your OAuth client ID. For example, if you've developed it in your GCP console and assigned a client ID there, that's where you would have done it. But you can add this here, and in fact, it will look it up and add it to the trusted list this way. So with both of these methods, you can decide which specific apps can access those OAuth 2 scopes or your G Suite APIs and block access to the rest. And why you would want to do this is because if there's apps out there, for example, your users may have trusted without knowing about them, you can block those apps and thereby reduce your exposure to potential data loss. Thank you for tuning in. Please visit cloud.google.com/security for more content from Google Cloud experts.